oh, I got this job, but here I am. Just a little bit about me. I am a 2011 graduate with a bachelor's in speech communication, now referred to as applied communication, but the millennial in me will never let that die. Speech communication always. And then I went back and I received my master's in 2014 in public administration. And actually, I see Sarah Colvin is here. I was her grad assistant whenever I was in grad school. So that's pretty cool. Hey. um, I hope you all are ready to have some fun and try some new drinks tonight. I know our mixologist is going to show us some delicious cocktails, and we're going to get to try something new. I don't know about you all, but I tend to stick with what I know. And so you have to force me to try new drinks every once in a while. So I'm pretty excited about this. Before we get started, I actually have a cocktail joke that I want to share. It's totally a dad joke. So what should you order if you want a small drink? A martini. I didn't promise it would be a good joke. I just said I had a joke. You're welcome for that. And then I also wanted to welcome a specific person who is joining us tonight. President of the SIU system, Dan Mahoney. Thank you so much for joining us. I kind of saw him when I was scrolling through the people. So welcome. We really appreciate you coming tonight.
Well, thank you, Lindy. Thank you. I appreciate you. Yeah, I'm here, and it's nice. I haven't had a chance to, with everything going on, to meet with a lot of the SIUE alumni, and so I'm happy to be here and see so many people on this call tonight. It's great.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much. And then just so everyone is aware, we would love it if you could please mute yourself. And if not, we will mute you just because we want to make sure our mixologist can be heard very clearly by everyone as he's kind of going through all of the things he wants to tell us tonight. And then make sure you have your Zoom screen set to speaker view once we start the demonstration so you can have a full, clear view of what is going on. And then feel free to use the chat window throughout the evening to ask questions, interact with other attendees. You guys are already doing a great job of that. And we'll be sure to get questions answered either during or after. And then one other housekeeping item, you can also change your display name if you wish. Just feel free to add your SIUE graduation year to your name. Just right click on your name and then choose rename in that option. So you can see I have 11 and 14 in mine. And then you probably already saw it, but this is being recorded and will be posted for viewing online afterwards for anyone who maybe just couldn't make it tonight. So we will have that available. And then before we switch it over, we have a few quick questions that we're going to post in a poll for everyone to answer. Ooh, these are hard. Not the decade I graduated, I know that. Justin, that's what I was thinking. Tequila is not on the list, and that is what I was looking for. That's why I said this is hard. All right, we'll see the answers shortly as soon as everyone gets theirs submitted. I'm curious what everyone ranked, how much they love SIUE.
you know, somebody really analytical out there is going to put like an 8. Like, you know, it's, eh.
But can they? Can they
Can they?
honestly?
Oh, you're going, there's only one choice.
Nick, are we almost ready with the poll results? Almost. All right. Overwhelmingly in the Midwest, not surprised, but I am happy to see we've got a little bit, you know, across the country. Next time we'll get some from outside the US. That's going to be a personal goal, okay? Let's see. What decade? Ooh, a lot of 2010s, but I see some from the 2000s, 90s, 80s, 60s. They wish they were an alumni. That's cool. We'll let you in this club this once. What college or unit? Nice variety across the board. I like it. Oh, no School of Dental Medicine. Again, next time, goal. Okay. Spirit of choice, whiskey. Okay. I honestly think had tequila been an option, it would have been up there just for next time, okay? And then on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you love SIUE? I think it's an overwhelming 10. I think that's the majority. It's just a 10. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for participating in that. And now I would like to introduce our mixologist and expert for the evening from the Manhattan Cocktail Project, Chris Lebeau.
Cool. Thank you, Lindy. Hello, everybody. I'm delighted to be here with you tonight. First, I promise that we're going to have a fun and delicious time. My story in the quickest nutshell is 10 years ago, after complaining to a girlfriend at length that I wanted to learn how to make cocktails, she bought me a private bartending lesson for a birthday, and that was the start of my journey. And when you pick up a skill like this, and you should start practicing after tonight if you don't already do this, because when you can finally get back together with friends easily again, they will pester you all the time. What are we having when I come over? What are you bringing? And that is actually how this program came to life. I had friends over and over again say, how do we do this? I wish I knew how to do this. And so I built this program designed to help people relatively at the front end of their journey find an easy way to start cocktailing. So something that's important to me tonight, in addition to a fun, delicious time, is when this is over, if you think I could do that again, then I feel like I've done my job. So that said, I have made every mistake in the book multiple times. Every question, I promise you, is not a dumb one. If you want to ask it, somebody is thinking it. Please feel safe asking me questions because I want you to feel comfortable doing what we're going to do, okay? So as you could have seen in the video that came out, we're really working with 3 ingredients tonight in our cocktails to start with. A spirit of some kind or some black tea. This is the base of what's called the sour cocktail family. So I'm using gin right here. Then I've got some lemon as well. And then I'm going to go ahead and I've got some cocktail syrup, just some equal parts sugar and water. The reason bars are more now often using this cocktail syrup, equal parts sugar and water, is that sugar really, for the chefs out there, acts like a fat when you're cooking. It really helps to calm down a citrus or a spirit and round it out. So sugar isn't necessarily about making sweet cocktails. If you want your cocktail sweet, we will work on that. But sugar is a fundamental element in any cocktail out there because it really helps balance out something as strong as this. Regarding equipment, in order to help citrus and spirit really come together in a great way, we shake a cocktail in order to help aerate that and better blend the ingredients. If there are chemists on here, they can probably talk to you about specific gravity or something that I don't understand. So measuring is also very valuable. When you're at home, you can certainly, it's your cocktail and your choice. But when we're dealing with pungent things like a spirit, a quarter or a half ounce can make a big difference. And so measuring helps us better control variables. As I probably said before, and I think the video, if you guys saw this when it came out, and no big deal, if you don't have a proper cocktail jigger, it's not a big deal. A quarter measuring cup and a tablespoon is perfect. And if you don't have a cocktail shaker, a mason jar, a large water bottle or thermos, something that you can seal with a couple ounces of water and ice is what you need. Any questions so far? We're going to talk recipes in a minute, and then we're going to get right into it. Any questions so far? Okay, great. So let me just go ahead now and do a little of this fancy Zoom screen share action right here. I am going to put this along with the actual recipe template in the chat, but just so we can talk about it for 1 minute. This cocktail family that we're working on, called the sour cocktail. Notice how in the second row here, underneath the names, every spirit calls for 2 ounces. So whether that's brandy or using vodka, Lindy was complaining about tequila at length, you know, no matter what you're using, it's 2 ounces. And so that's either a 2 ounce pour from your jigger or your quarter measuring cup is 2 ounces. Then the beautiful part here is 3/4 ounce of lime or lemon juice, and then 3/4 ounce of your simple syrup. For right now, do me a favor, don't worry about Angostura bitters or mint or anything. Right now, we're just gonna focus on these top 3 ingredients right here. So a couple of things I owe you guys right now. Hold on. So in the chat, I am gonna drop 2 things. One on, so the link in the chat goes back to that recipe book. On page 3 is where I was, but notice that the recipe template I talked about is right here in the chat too, because right now we're going to start making our drinks right now because we learn best by doing. So I want you guys to have this, but also feel free right now to start sending questions my way. But whatever you're planning to shake in, we're going to start adding our 3 ingredients. You can add them in any order you like, but we're going to go ahead and start adding them now to our cocktail shaker. Questions while I start? Okay, what I know about this class, because I do this all the time, is things are quiet at first. And Lindy and Nick, please let me know if I'm missing stuff in the chat. And I appreciate that they want people muted. What's most important to me is that you feel comfortable asking your question, no matter what. So I've got in my 3/4 ounce of my cocktail syrup, the 3/4 ounce of my lemon juice. I'm going to use lemon here. And then 2 ounces of my broker's gin right here. So there is also one other ingredient we haven't discussed that is essential for every single cocktail: ice. About 25 to 30% of every cocktail is water. So if you have a metal cocktail shaker, you can start shaking. And again, the chemists and the physicists in the room, physicists, whatever, in the room could explain this to you. As the metal gets cold, immediately you'll think, oh, the cocktail must be done. No, we shake for about 10 to 15 seconds, and you really want about 2 good fistfuls of ice in your shaker, because we're trying to do 2 things. We're trying to both chill and dilute our cocktail. Is everybody doing okay right now? All right, I'm gonna grab my ice and we're gonna get started because it's cocktail party, right? So, all right.
Hey, Chris.
Yes.
Can you give some alternatives to everyone for if they don't have any acid on hand, such as a lemon or a lime? What else can be used?
Sure. Yeah. So I mean, other acids. I mean, certainly if you do have orange on hand, is also another acid too. And if I was going to reach for other acids, obviously other juices that you have in your cabinet are perfect. Those are the acids that come best to mind right now in terms of this very basic template. Are many people there at home without many citruses, or I apologize if you are hamstrung here. Give this a shake here.
Why doesn't everyone go ahead and unmute so we can hear all of the shake, shake, shaking?
Yeah. Yeah, and I want to see you guys using those quarantine muscles right there. Let's go. Okay, so now depending on your shaker, because metal can condense, sometimes a shaker can get stuck together. So sometimes you squeeze a shaker and you give it a nice slap with a palm if you're having trouble ever unsealing it right there. And if not, perfect. If you have a strainer, if your cocktail shaker has one built in or you have one at home, this is where you now go ahead and lay that right on the top. We do this, so if you like a cocktail on the rocks, one, you can always just pour everything out. But because the ice you were shaking with has begun to warm up, it will melt faster. So a lot of times if you ever want a cocktail on the rocks, the best thing to do is to pour over fresh ice. So, all right, I see Jack and Marianne, they've got their cocktail in hand.
Chris, we had a question. Is a glass shaker okay?
Yes, so glass shakers are okay, yes. What about to my friends Jack and Marianne? How'd that cocktail turn out for you right there?
Are outstanding.
Wonderful, wonderful.
It is great.
Perfect. So one of the things that's, we all have slightly different taste profiles. So something that's interesting right now as you're beginning to taste the cocktail, oh my God, this is too citrusy. Add a little extra, a 1/4 ounce of your simple syrup or a 1/2 ounce extra. Oh my God, this is too sweet. Add a little extra of your citrus right there too. It's one of those things where it's not just, do I like this or do I not like this? It's also, what am I tasting? If the liquor is ever too strong, I've asked countless bartenders this question. If you measure a drink properly and something's off, what's often off? They say that most often people have not shaken the cocktail long enough, that often it hasn't diluted enough, and so it's gotten too boozy. So any other questions or comments in the chat I need to know about right now?
If everyone would like to go ahead and unmute, just so we can,
Be quiet.
Yeah, we need some shaking, we need some sipping, we need all that stuff.
Great, perfect. Yeah, I can drift into the background here for a moment if people want to. Yeah, cheers to all you.
Cheers. SIU.
Yeah.
To spend an evening with you guys right here.
Go Cougars.
So, I'll keep talking, and Lindy and Nick just cut me off if you ever need something. So something to start talking about right off the bat, things you guys may or may not have at home, but let's talk about. So one of my favorite little cocktail analogies is, so think about the perfect order of French fries. They've been fried up perfectly. They're delicious. They're wonderful. But when you take a bite, something's off. And you realize there's no salt on those French fries right there. Just a little pinch of salt can make a big difference on them, right? Bitters are considered to be, and they come in all different shapes and sizes, are considered to be the spice cabinet. There we go. Darren's got some right there. Are considered to be the spice cabinet of the cocktail world. Angostura, Laura's got hers held up right there too, are kind of considered the most baseline salt and pepper. Recipes sometimes will call for them and sometimes they don't. One thing I think is great to do, honestly, once you have taken a sip of your cocktail, on any sour like this, I recommend taking, after you've had a taste, and put a dash right in there, and you will see, just like how the salt would transform that order of French fries, because you got to taste your cocktail without it in there, and now when you have it in just with that little addition, like, oh wow, I'm getting these warmer spice notes here. You may prefer it a little less beforehand, but it really kind of adds another layer of depth to a cocktail right there. So let me take a breath here and ask a question. Any general cocktail questions people have? Or is there that bottle of liquor at home that's laying around on your shelf Okay, and I see Denise has got her bottle of orange bitters out. Cool. Any bottle of booze on your home shelf where you're like, what is it that I do with this thing right here? Who's got that bottle laying around?
We do have a question in the chat. Justin was asking if they could put the bitters and club soda in as well, or is that for later on?
Good question. So yes, there's no reason it can't go in now. What I often like to do, and some people like 2 cocktails, some people like 1. The first one I like to not overcomplicate it, but yes, there's no reason to Justin. Yeah, and Jeff wants 3 of them. But there's no reason. You can always add a little club soda and bitters right now. What I like to do is progressively show people how they build up, but please add club soda. Something you need to know that's interesting. You guys have probably all heard the name of the cocktail, the Tom Collins, before. The Tom Collins is the cocktail you just made with club soda in it. So the Collins family of cocktails is a sour cocktail plus club soda. So whether you used tequila, you used whiskey, you used gin, it becomes a Collins cocktail by adding a club soda to it. So this is a fun thing to know as well, especially come summer, or shoot, even tonight. In the summer, you're sitting out with your friends on the patio. You want some longer drinks because you're going to be at it for a while. That's a nice way to dilute it, and actually helps open the cocktail up in a different way. What was that? Okay, so if everybody's good, because this is a university, we got to have a little more education, right? So, what I want everybody to do, I'm going to focus on this daiquiri here for a second right here, okay? So, 2 ounces of my rum, 3/4 ounce lime juice, 3/4 ounce simple syrup. Now, what I'm about to show you applies again to whatever spirit you just used. So,
Yep, I need the rum.
Notice on the top of this right here, we're always still talking about 2 ounces of rum, no matter what the cocktail is. In the case of this Old Cuban, or this Royal Old Cuban and the Dark and Stormy, we're using an aged rum. But what's awesome about learning this template is, if you add club soda and mint to a daiquiri, you've now got a mojito. We're going to talk about eggs in a minute too. You can make a mojito fizz. You can also, instead of using club soda, you can use champagne as well. So what's wonderful about this, committing this little formula to memory, is you can really begin to add all sorts of different iterations. For those of you who might not know it by name, you probably know the name Moscow Mule by name. The Dark and Stormy is the Moscow Mule's rum cousin. So if you don't want to use ginger beer, you can also instead use a ginger syrup. Okay, so that's a lot of me rambling right there. Any initial reactions? What I just want you to see is all the different ways this template really begins to go once you begin to explore it right here. Okay, cool.
We do have a question. How long does simple syrup last? Should you make plenty and have leftovers?
Perfect, yes. So you know what? I do recommend, sugar is sometimes used as a preservative. Think about jelly as an example, but I do recommend keeping it in the refrigerator. But when you've made it naturally with just sugar and water, I find for honestly, usually at least 2 months, I have no problem with mine at all. So if you've made some, yes, keep it in there. So speaking of syrup, let's talk about, so like I said, cocktails need a sweetener, but I didn't say what kind of sweetener they had to have. So Nick knows this. I'm actually traveling right now, so I'm in an Airbnb, and so I raided their pantry stores, but so honey is a sweetener. Maple syrup is a sweetener. So these are deeper, richer elements. Now, something that's obviously clear that anybody can even just visually see, this cocktail syrup is thinner than this honey. You guys know that. Because it's thicker and denser, it's sweeter. So now, if you like a sweet cocktail, perfect. But if you're going to use honey, they either recommend thinning it or using a little less. But this is a way that you can suddenly have a rich honey taste, or in the winter, and I can send this out. There is a wonderful whiskey sour riff to what we just made, and something everybody should think about right now if you've got it at home. There's a whiskey sour riff called the Maple Leaf that calls on maple syrup and a pinch of cinnamon on top. You know, obviously the weather's starting to warm up a little bit right now, but so much of what we taste is through our nose. And so sometimes just that little pinch of cinnamon on top of a cocktail will make it pop like that and really give you those wonderful vibes. So whether it's a cinnamon stick, rosemary, mint, these things all really enhance a cocktail with just a tiny little touch right here.
Hey, Chris, we got another question. Simple or similar to the how long does simple syrup last? How long does bitters last?
Yeah, so bitters, especially like Angostura, you know, this is like battle proof right here. This is 45% alcohol, so this is shelf stable. So in the same way that like you got that bottle of whiskey from 8 years ago, Angostura, if you keep it in a cool, dark place, it's going to keep for years without a problem. Some bitters are less alcoholic, and so they can begin to degrade, but bitters by natural are also a bit of a preservative, so you will have it for a while there. Let's go ahead for a minute and talk about a couple other things as well, and then we'll get into a second cocktail, because some people, as in every call, if you're already making another one, good on you. This is great. Let's talk about fresh lemon and lime versus bottled citrus. So in a pinch, you should always use whatever you got on hand. But the thing to know is that when you press citrus, it begins to oxidize. And what happens is the citrus becomes less sour and instead more bitter. And so you will at times you might need to add, if you were going to make a cocktail with fresh citrus versus bottled citrus, you're going to actually probably need to add more syrup or more water to actually battle to find that same level of balance there. Second thing, ice. You know, you probably have wonderful things in your freezer like I do, like pizza rolls, and, you know, you've got, you know, whatever, chicken wings in there. As the air moves around your freezer, little bits of aroma can begin to settle on your ice. So every once in a while, and this is only if you want to get particular, you don't have to. Cocktail police nor me will show up at your door. Well, probably not. But something to do is every once in a while to turn over your freezer just to kind of get fresh ice in there. Because it's one of those things where when you're just using 3 ingredients, you know, lemon, sugar, and spirit, anything can begin to also pull your cocktail down a little bit too. So just some fun facts for the people out there. So how are we doing at home? People ready for round 2, or are people still working?
Chris, I think before we move on to the next one, I think we're gonna stop for a second.
Yep.
First, I am going to introduce a couple people that are gonna speak for just a second. First, you've heard from Nick tonight. He's been in and out, but also Mark Kinnear is going to hop on and talk to you all for a second as well.
Hello, how's everyone doing? I had to find my unmute button there because the screen got all wonky. I hope everyone's having fun. I accidentally forgot to buy citrus tonight, so I'm just drinking a straight bottle of peanut butter whiskey. It goes really well with air and ice, not well with sugar. So I'm here to tell you today about, let me see here, about the Alumni Scholarship. If you didn't know, SIUE awards $20,000 annually to SIUE students in the form of scholarships. And those awards range anywhere from $500 to full tuition and fees to some students. Yeah, and like Kathy said, just keep drinking and then I can hit the donate button. I guess that goes for everyone else as well.
Absolutely.
And if you didn't realize, there's a pandemic going on, and it's been pretty hard for us to raise money to give those scholarships out to students this year. In the past, our bread and butter has been holding events like this in person, And we very much miss all of you, and we can't do that with the pandemic. So with that being said, if you could help us at all raise some money for scholarships, please click the active siue.edu/alumni/give link, which is in the chat now from Nick, and help us out. And as Eileen said, donating $20.08 now for your for her graduation year, or you can donate $19.69 if your graduation year was 1969. So that's a fun little way to give back. And the whiskey is making me feel a little hot, so I'm gonna go now.
I love that idea. So I have to do 2011 and then 2014. So you guys are getting double the money from me. So I like it. All right, Nick.
Yes. Thank you, Lindy. Another program and initiative that the Alumni Association has started recently is the expansion of our chapters and networks. We realize that there are over 118,000 alumni all over the country, and we want to interact with all of you. So we do have a pretty well-established Chicago chapter. That was our first endeavor into this back in 2017. And we also are in the process of starting 2 new groups. One is the Springfield, Illinois chapter, and then the other is the SIUE Alumni Association's Young Professionals Network in St. Louis. I will put links for all of those in the chat now. You should get those now. And with these chapters and networks, they can be created based on anything: geographic location, special interest groups, identity, whatever. So if you are at all interested in starting your own chapter, please reach out to us via email. It's siuealumni@siue.edu, and we will talk more with you, because we would love to, again, expand our reach. We are a young university, but we have some of the best alumni around. So we want to make sure that we're interacting with all of you as much as we can. So all of that info is in the chat, and I'm going to turn it back over to Lindy.
Thank you, Nick. You know, I'm originally from the Springfield, Illinois area, so I know there are a large amount of us that came down to SIUE from that area, and I know quite a few people went back. So I am excited to see that chapter grow. So thank you. And we're gonna take it back to Chris for our next drink. I'm really excited to see what it is.
Okay, so this is, so one, we are going to work on kind of flavoring up our cocktail a little bit more here. And on this one, I need you to, one, trust me a little bit and let me guide you here, because, so earlier today I traveled, and the place I have arrived at was flooded when I got there. And so 20 minutes prior to the call, I landed in this other spot. Egg white is one of the most incredible additions you can make to a cocktail. Of course, if you're not vegetarian or vegan. And I'd love to talk to you about how to add egg white to this cocktail. I have taught this class to over 2,000 people. Anytime someone is worried about it, if they decide to take the egg white plunge, they love it. I will not be able to demo it because I wasn't able to get to the grocery store because my apartment was flooded, and I know you don't care about my mistakes, but I want to talk to you about how to do egg white in a cocktail. So we are going to first repeat what we just did. So your lemon, your citrus, your sugar, and your spirit. It's going to go into your shaker, and then we are going to add egg white into here, but don't add any ice. So we're going to start by adding those 4 ingredients. If you don't consume eggs, don't have them, it's not the end of the world, but trust me on this, it will take your cocktail game. And also, if you have another spirit at home, go grab that. You know, there's no reason to not go ahead and mix things up right now, because I started with gin, and now I'm going to move over to a bottle of rum right here. And then we're going to add a little club soda after we do the egg or don't do the egg right here, okay? So, and actually, no, I'll put this back in the chat again because, sorry, you guys are like, wait, what are those ratios again? Hold on, let me put that back in the chat. Sometimes, as the person who stares at this stuff every day, I forget that everybody else is not. So we're gonna start with these 3 things again, but then we're gonna add an egg white into our cocktail shaker. So I've got my 2 ounces of my rum. And one thing that's also important to know is lemon does tend to work better with aged spirits, but a lot of bars are very interchangeable with these things. So don't worry if, oh, I have whiskey, but I only have lime. Try it out. You will still find it to be quite wonderful. So the citruses are very, very forgiving in that regard. So let's pretend that I didn't fall short for you guys and there was egg white in this shaker right here, right now. I'm gonna go ahead and seal my shaker up just like this, no ice, and we're gonna do what's called a dry shake. For the people out there that are the chefs in the room, and shoot, even when you're making just scrambled eggs, you whip those eggs up. So if you want to get real sciencey, when eggs get cold, their proteins actually can't realign to froth up as much. So this is called a dry shake because the egg will foam up more when it shakes on its own. So you're going to shake without ice for a 5 count. So shake sans ice for a 5 count right here. Yes, so I saw a question about egg white in a bottle. You can absolutely use egg white in a bottle. And to Justin's question, Justin, the honest answer is if you crack the egg open, put the whole egg white in there. A lot of bars will use about an ounce. Sometimes I find if you're actually doing the egg cracking, it can be a little much to navigate. You will not hurt the cocktail. You will just get more wonderful froth on top of the cocktail right there. So you've given it a 5 count of a shake. Now you will open it back up. Yeah, so Justin's got of liquid egg white. Perfect. Yeah, for your liquid egg white, use an ounce, an ounce and a half of it, and that'll be perfect. Thank you for asking that question. And now, if it's called dry shaking when you don't have ice, it's of course called wet shaking when you have ice in there. So now we go right back to where we were before, and we're gonna go ahead and do our standard wet shake. And you're gonna see when you're done shaking and strain it into your glass, you're gonna have this wonderful froth suddenly in your cocktail. And then if you've got club soda, pour it right on the top. Although I recommend taking a taste first before you add it, just so you can taste it on its own. All right, and like Nick said before, come on off mute now. Let's shake together here.
I'm spilling all over the place.
Laura's shaking it pretty good.
I'm just gonna drink out of the mud.
All right, so I'm just gonna pretend like so again, if somebody, who did egg white out there? Who did egg white? Laura did. I don't know if you guys had me on speaker view, might not, but yeah, I want Laura. Yeah, you go. Thank you, Laura. Yeah, hold that up to the camera right there. There we go. Yeah, so you see she's got that nice froth on top of her cocktail right there. And what you're going to get from the egg white, if you're not doing it, if I didn't sell you on it, is the egg white is going to take the citrus flavor, the lime or the lemon, and it's going to round it out. It's going to soften it down. So you're still going to get that whiskey or that gin and that lemon or that lime, but you're gonna get it and it's really gonna round it out and calm it down right there. So, and now, like I said, if you want, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna turn this cocktail into a Collins, and you can always turn an egg cocktail into a Collins as well right there. These are all just little tricks where that way, one day from now, you're hosting friends again. First you make them a whiskey sour, and the next thing you make them a whiskey Collins. They think it's 2 drinks. You know that it's 1 with just club soda. This way, when you're at a party, you're not suddenly scouring a recipe book for one more thing right there. Have I missed anything in the chat right now?
Mark wants to know what pairs well with a cake batter donut from Krispy Kreme.
So, Mark, one, from a legit answer, one, if you want to get a little crazy, I'd recommend espresso martini, but I'd get some like Bailey's, I'd get some like coffee liqueur, would be perfect. Yeah, you know what I would do, Mark? I would do an Irish coffee is what I would, of course, do. So Irish coffee, the real key to it is it's whiskey and it's sugar and coffee, but on top, what you really do when you want to do it proper, you go get some whipping cream and whip it up, and then they cake it across the top. It's not hard to make, and it is divine. So Irish coffee would be perfect. Yeah, and so to Jill's point, I'll send out the espresso martini is honestly, so an espresso martini is vodka, it's a little bit of cold brew coffee or espresso, some coffee liqueur, and a little bit of simple syrup. So you need to have some espresso or cold brew coffee on hand and buy a bottle of coffee liqueur, but they're super easy to make. It's 4 ingredients right there. So I'm gonna send out an espresso martini recipe because that's a fun one. And I'll send out for Mark, I'll send out the Irish coffee recipe too. I like to send out a little follow-up email after class.
Chris, I love how you took my my donut dilemma and turned it into an awesome espresso coffee drink for everyone. Great information.
So I want to show you guys something else right now. And please call me out if I'm missing a question. So,
Chris.
Yes,
sorry. Rachel would like to know how much club soda do you add again?
Yeah. So good question. It's a little bit like cooking, Rachel, where it's like when they say to taste, but on average, 2 ounces is a great place to start. But I'd add an ounce. I'd give it a little stir in. How's it taste now? I'd add another ounce. It's a little bit like cooking where it's honestly fun to taste it incrementally because you get to see, oh, yeah, it's getting softer now. Oh, so that's the kind of thing that helps you find your taste profile, right? Because Rachel might like her cocktail stronger than me, right? So I'm adding 4 ounces of club soda and she's adding 2. So it's a little bit about, like, as I've heard a lot of great chefs are, you memorize the technique and the recipes, so then you can break the technique and the recipes right there and finding your own piece. These recipes are about getting comfort within a zone, but it's realizing that, Darren, or, Mark, they have slightly different taste profiles than me. The 2 people I'm on vacation with right now, he loves everything spicy in his food. I mean, like, they cannot cook the same dish at all. He has to spice everything afterward. But it's like they're eating the same pasta dish, but he has put, a mound of red pepper flakes into it, right? So it's the same dish, but it's tweaked based on taste preference right there. So that was my long answer to how much club soda do you put into a cocktail right there. So I want to show you guys something, because to me, hopefully also as I hammer this template into your head, I want to show you how quickly your cocktail game can even elevate even further by just adding 1 more ingredient to this template right here. So real quick, going back to our daiquiri friend right here. We got our rum, we got our lime, and we got our simple syrup. So spirit, citrus, and sugar, right? So let's come down here and let's talk about the Daisy family. So I'm over to my girl Lindy now. I've got my tequila, I've got my lime, and here's my simple syrup right here, okay? If I add just 1 ingredient, an orange liqueur, which you might know as triple sec or Cointreau or Grand Marnier, you graduate from tequila sour to margarita. 1 ingredient. And in that same family of cocktails, if you were using brandy instead, now you've got a sidecar. If you were using gin, now you've got what's called a Pegu Club. With the Cosmo, you obviously have to have a little bit of a cranberry juice on hand too. But the Daisy family, like I tell people, if you've got a couple of bottles of liquor at home you like, a bottle of orange liqueur, Cointreau is the gold standard for sure. is always the next addition you make to a bar, because suddenly this whole other family of cocktails unlocks by adding one more ingredient right there. So.
I like it.
Boom. All right, I've been rambling for a while. General cocktail questions or ingredients you guys have got at home that we haven't talked about yet, you want to mess around with a little bit or talk about is what
I think Denise held up that bottle of the orange bitters, or I forget what it was.
Mm-hmm.
But she mentioned it in the chat that she wasn't exactly sure what to do with that.
Yeah. So the first thing that I would say to my friend Denise right there is, one, when in doubt, in my opinion, add it to a cocktail, or even better, and I mean this actually, next time you have or got it home, break out some club soda or even shoot a glass of water, put bitters, whatever bitters you have, into that and taste it on its own. As I heard one great chef say, for the spices you have in your spice cabinet, drop them into a little bit of water and then smell them and taste them. Oh, that's what tarragon tastes like. So, but things like an orange bitters by default are often going to be used in typically lighter cocktails, pairing with gins and vodkas. A lot of bars actually now in a very traditional martini will add a dash or two of orange bitters into the cocktail as well. What I would tell you is there's no reason not to just at times try dropping it into the cocktail to see what it does. Orange and Angostura are by far considered the two primary staples of the cabinet. But from there, it's like, oh man, celery sounds fun. Lavender sounds fun. Chocolate sounds fun. It's about finding what sounds great. And I'm seeing some reactions from Lindy and Nick, so I must be missing chaos in the chat right now.
So hang on just a second. So
yeah.
Actually what I put in the chat, because I don't know what to do with this, I got it as a gift at Christmas, is a Ferrette biscotti liqueur.
Okay.
It's a cool bottle. The bottle is so cool looking. I don't know what to do with what's inside the bottle.
Yeah, so the first thing I'll tell you is I don't know that by name, but here's what I would tell you that I'm immediately going to say, Denise. So what's interesting is in this spirit category, for example, we've been talking about like, hey, when this pandemic's over, your friend comes over and like, hey, let me make you a gin Southside. And you're like, oh man, I mean, when I was at SIUE, I was very responsible, but after that, I had a bad night one night with gin and I can't drink gin anymore. And you're like, hey, no problem. Let's make you a vodka gimlet instead. In this family, the spirits are very interchangeable, right? Denise, the first thing that I'm going to tell you is, and I don't know if you're a coffee drinker, but the espresso martini recipe I'm going to send out, I wouldn't do coffee liqueur. I would do your biscotti liqueur.
I'll try that.
So what's interesting is liqueurs, what most liqueurs are actually basically 100 proof vodka that have bits of flavoring and sugar added to them. So liqueurs, now again, if you have like over here, you have a chili liqueur and then you've got your biscotti liqueur, I think about interchanging them but like looking at cocktails that call on other dessert flavors. So that's the one thing, like, look, this tends to be very forgiving. It's like, oh, this calls for a coffee liqueur. Well, shoot, I'm trying a dessert liqueur right here. So that's the first thing, but I'll look it up and see if anything else real simple.
Well, it has a very anise flavor.
Okay. Got it. Okay.
And my mistake at SIU Edwardsville back in about 1977 was rum and Coke.
Okay. Yes. and I actually like if and this is a personal thing for 1 second, but like, so what's interesting is rum is one of the industries that has been most destroyed by, if I may, lower end spirits. So things like, and if you like any of these things, there's nothing wrong with them, but Captain Morgan, Parrot Bay, and Malibu all have lots of sugar added to them to make them more delicious and easier to drink. And because of all that sugar, they actually can lead to people. So many of those rums, Captain Morgan is technically actually not rum. It is a rum liqueur because it is sweetened. So if you've got bad rum days, all I want to tell you is rum is my favorite spirit. Doesn't have to be yours, but I find most people had bad rum days and have never looked back from them. And so I hear you, Denise. And what I want you guys to know is rum is wonderful if you ever feel like taking the plunge. So.
Hey, Denise, I looked up that brand and they actually have some recipes on their website. So I dropped the link in the chat, but I'm going to do it again because it was a little while back. But it's drinkforready.com and they got some cool looking recipes on there. Pretty simple too. Like they're saying just to put it with orange juice if you want to.
Yeah,
nice
my man,
flavor.
and my man Darren calling out the blackstrap rum. Yes, sir, that's real good. Okay, so somebody else just dropped a chinar in the perfect in the chat. So
someone's asking what type of rum you would recommend.
Yeah, so so there are a couple of them. Let me get to the chinar question, then I'll talk about my rums real quick. So chinar, I mean, is might even be on the back of it. One, it's perfect in a Manhattan to sub out for that. So one, with the chinar, you know, so it tends to kind of act, so there's a cocktail called there's obviously the Manhattan, but then there's also a cocktail called the Black Manhattan. And the Black Manhattan is a cocktail that you take the vermouth out and you put Amari in instead in its place right there. So that is the first thing that I would tell you to do that cocktail right away is what comes to mind. So and I can send out a couple other chinar cocktails. So for my rums, what I would recommend, here we go. Oh yeah, and yeah, my man Rafi's got the Zacapa right there. So yeah, he's on board. So a couple rums that aren't too hard to find. Appleton Estate, the standard is wonderful. If you are a whiskey drinker out there, you really need to try out Jamaican Rums. You will love them for the similarity. They are also much funkier. So you get some Appleton or, and I'll send this out too, some Plantation Jamaica. Both of those, they will blow your mind on that. Now, for a straight daiquiri, and a daiquiri is my favorite cocktail, rum, sugar, and lime. Barbancourt is a rum from the island of Haiti. And it will have this very unique flavor to it. So if I was gonna recommend 2 bottles of white rum, one would be Plantation 3 stars, and I'll put this in the email that they can send out. And second would be Barbancourt. They're gonna both present differently, even though they're both gonna work wonderfully in a traditional daiquiri. And then, like I said, Plantation, Jamaica, and I saw Darren nod, and I think it was for the Appleton Estate. It's stupidly delicious. It's great. So anyways, that's my team rum pitch to everybody right there. And I will send all that out in my follow-up to Nick. So how are we doing? Other questions come up, or what do people need or want to know right now?
I haven't seen any other questions come in, but I think we're ready to wrap it up.
Okay.
If any do come in the next minute, I'll be sure to point them out. But thank you, Chris. I'm like really excited to try these this weekend because that's how I spend most of my weekends these days, drinking at home alone.
Let me throw one other thing. So my man Rafi holding up his bottle of Zacapa.
Yes.
There is kind of what's also called more of a Spanish style of rum right there. And that's Zacapa, and a couple other rums are also wonderful for an old fashioned. And I'm actually gonna put one other thing, since most of you, I don't know how many of you were in the Midwest, there's a wonderful emerging rum line out of St. Louis called Duckett. And they're out of Union, Missouri. Demetrius is an incredible guy. He makes awesome rums. So I'll put that in there too, because that's the little, kind of the little greater St. Louis region thing too. All right.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris. Thank you so much. I hope everyone had as much fun tonight as I did. I really had a great time in the chat as well. I think everyone was pretty engaged, so I really appreciate that. But before we let you go, we wanted to share some upcoming events that we hope you all can join or tune into. We do have the new SIUE Alumni Learning Consortium. And these are free webinars for alumni of all ages. We have quite a few different topics as well, and you can check that out. The link is on the screen, but it is alumlc.org/SIUE, and Nick did also put that in the chat. And then you should also join us May 6th through the 7th for our virtual golden graduation. Help us celebrate SIUE alumni who graduated 50 or more years ago with a virtual reception and special commencement ceremony. I am really excited to see this actually. And the link for that is also in the chat, siue.edu/alumni/golden. And you can go there for more details on how to register. And then our other event coming up, you may be familiar with, SIUE Homecoming 2021. It is September 20th through the 25th. And you can visit siue.edu/homecoming for more info on that. Nick dropped that link in the chat as well. And be sure to join us and follow us on social media. We have Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. You can stay up to date on all SIUE alumni related events, news, and content. I usually engage mostly probably on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. I'm not much of a Twitter person, which is weird because I'm a communications person. But yeah, join us on that. And then we would love it, absolutely love it, if you could complete the follow-up survey about your experience during the happy hour. We are constantly trying to find ways to engage with you all, especially because we are in a pandemic and we have to be virtual and be safe. And until we can physically be in the same room together, which I hope will be sometime soon. So please fill out that follow-up survey when you get it. It will be emailed out to everyone tomorrow. And then before we leave, I have one more joke because I have to leave it this way. Nick's so excited.
Hey, before you go to this knee slapper that you're about to share,
Yes.
there was a question in the chat.
Yes.
We will email out the recording, and it's also going to be on our YouTube channel. So you can access it there or through the Alumni Learning Consortium site that we put in the chat earlier. So all of the links that we shared tonight, we will make sure that you get those via email sometime tomorrow. Now I will turn it back over to our comedian in residence.
Don't give me that title. You'll give me a big head. So this is the joke, and then we will leave you. A screwdriver walks into a bar and the bartender says, "Hey, we have a drink named after you." And the screwdriver says, "You have a drink named Philip?"
That was a good one.
You're welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for attending, and we hope you had a great time.
Cheers to all of you. Thank you so
Yes.
much for being here tonight.
Cheers.
Cheers. Thanks,
all.
everyone.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Jack, can you take her out?